Alt 98.7, it's Harms on Saturday, March 21st. The first annual LOVR Benefit concert is happening here in LA at the Palladium. Chris Martin from COLDPLAY is performing, as is Nick Petricca from Walk the Moon, Dreamers, who you've heard on Alt 98.7, amongst numerous others. As of right now, tickets are still available. You can find them in a link in this video. We also have them in a post over at alt987fm.com. This entire night is dedicated to end driving under the influence, which kills more people than cancer every single year. And the driving force behind this show is the Noah Benardout Foundation. And with us right now is Marc Benardout from the foundation. Marc, thank you for being here.
Thank you for inviting me.
Let's start with the foundation and its purpose and its mission and why it has put together a show like this.
Absolutely. Well, unfortunately, last August, my son was killed by a drunk driver. Mm-hmm. My son Noah was a pedestrian. He was standing on a street corner and was hit by a speeding vehicle. And obviously, our family were devastated and are still devastated. It's an unthinkable tragedy for anyone to go through, especially a father and a mother and a sister that Noah left. But we realized that we wanted to turn our grief and anger into something positive. So I did a lot of research due to a lot of sleepless nights in dealing with this tragedy, and just was shocked to realize the epidemic that we have here, certainly in California and specifically in Southern California. You know, California is the worst state in the nation for pedestrian fatalities.
I did not know that.
Los Angeles is the number one city for the most pedestrian fatalities out of the top 10 cities in the U.S. Mm-hmm. And California alone, along with a couple of other states, accounts for 50% of these traffic fatalities. So it's an epidemic. There's obviously organizations that have, been set up in the past to help try and prevent these statistics, but the statistics are getting worse. Mm-hmm. They're not getting better. 2019 had a 20% rise in DUI deaths. Mm-hmm. A lot of that is to do, obviously, with the legalization of marijuana, and it's a problem. So I decided, with my family, that we were going to put together a foundation. We realized that there are different types of foundations you can put together. Some are sort of dedicated to lobbying and a bit more sort of politically oriented. And then there's other foundations, which is where our foundation falls, where we are really doing grassroots awareness to, change the habits of people, in our society. And the foundation's specific mission is to spread awareness through music and education. Okay. We have a very robust education program that's headed by my daughter, and it'll be going around to high schools to educate young drivers and students about the dangers of impaired driving. Mm-hmm. So that's sort of, that's where we started off, and we've managed to gain a lot of momentum with people that are really sort of, brought into the cause, and, that we've met a lot of people that also have experienced such tragic circumstances.
It's so important because I feel like if you ask anybody, they can tell you off the top of their head, yes, driving under the influence is bad. Yeah. But based on kind of what you just said and what the mission of the foundation is, I don't think people probably realize how bad it is.
Absolutely.
And how bad it is in California and how bad it is in Los Angeles.
For sure.
And the fact that your family has kind of taken up this role to educate people on that, and hopefully in turn, if people have that knowledge, then will kind of go and think twice about putting themselves in that situation again. It's tremendous. It's a tremendous cause. It is a tremendous way of kind of putting your energy into something. And again, we're all very grateful that you're doing it. Absolutely. If you don't mind, tell us a little bit about Noah. He was a musician. He was getting ready to release some music last August. Tell us about it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Noah has wanted to be a musician since the age of 5. Mm-hmm. He had no plan B. He's been performing, performed on stage when he was 12 with Slash, and he went out on tour with a band. When he was 16, he was the youngest artist to have a residency at the Hard Rock. So all through his life, he's had, he's been in music. He was in a band called Exist Elsewhere that opened up for Shawn Mendes and B. Miller many, many years ago, and, taught himself with the progression of music, taught himself to be a producer. And, his most recent artist act was the artist that he called himself was LOVR, LOVR.
Okay.
And he had recorded an EP and was recording another EP and had just finished that EP, was offered a management deal and a record deal, and that was the day he was killed. But he was an amazing singer-songwriter, had a beautiful voice, and, we will be releasing his unreleased EP on Friday, the 20th of March, the day before the event. And, I know he would have wanted people to hear it.
Absolutely.
And he was an incredible person. And I think the amazing response from people that have known him and that are participating in the event is a testament to that.
Again, the concert happens on March 21st at the Palladium. It is the LOVR Benefit show to raise awareness about driving under the influence and what an epidemic it is. Chris Martin from Coldplay is your headliner, which I don't think I can overstate this. That's not something that happens. You don't start a foundation in the fall, send off an email, and all of a sudden Chris Martin's playing your show. But that is what happened here. And there's a couple reasons why. Can you kind of fill us in on how Chris became involved?
Absolutely. Well, Noah had obviously some role models and heroes, as any young boy or any young person with ambition has. And Coldplay and Chris Martin were one of his biggest ambitions. And when the tragedy happened, a friend of mine had directed a video of Coldplay, and I wanted to do a memorial concert. And the memorial concert segued into becoming this benefit concert. But I'd contacted Coldplay's manager. I'd written him a very heartfelt letter, not really anticipating a response. But within 3 hours, I got a personal phone call from Chris himself.
Wow.
And it was a real moment of light in this darkness that we're in. And it was incredible. And, Chris was, he was really upset by what happened to Noah. And he had actually met Noah many times. Noah had probably been to every Coldplay concert ever in LA and, in other places.
Yeah.
But, he was a huge fan. But it was incredible, the response from Chris and the band and the management. So they've been instrumental in helping put this together.
It's fantastic.
Yeah, it's fun. They're a class act.
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's a reason they're the number one band in the world. Whether you like them or not, they're incredible.
Yeah, it's so funny. I feel like I've said this till I'm blue in the face, and I feel like anyone who has met Coldplay and has dealt with Coldplay kind of realizes as well. Regardless what you think of you think of their music, which the majority of people love, those guys are just great people, as is evidenced on a regular basis, and this is another kind of case in point right there. It's not just Coldplay, though.
No.
There is lots of other stuff happening on this night at the Palladium. Who else is involved? Kind of what else is happening this evening?
Well, as you mentioned earlier, there's Dreamers, there's Nick Petricca from Walk the Moon, we have Madison Beer, we have Sophia Carson, we have Daya, we have a band called El Javi, which is led by Noah's guitar teacher.
Oh, cool.
He's a flamenco artist. We have an incredible artist called Romeo from a band called Farr. We have a number of speakers as well, and we have a big call to action moment to bring awareness to everybody. But throughout the night, we're going to be reminding people of the messaging, because it's not only drinking; it's drugs and prescription medicine, and it's about taking responsibility and being accountable. And whether you've had a glass of wine, or you've had a drop of beer, or whether you've taken, whether you've smoked weed, or whether you've done an edible, the minute you've done that, you are impaired. So you don't have reasonable and rational thinking. So if you're not able to, your friend or your family, or your mother or father needs to take that responsibility. So what we're trying to do is just tell everyone that it's now time for us to change our habits and be more responsible. And it's not just about you.
Yeah.
We're using this great phrase that thankfully, I didn't come up with it. My good friend Kerry Warren came up with it. But it's an interesting dynamic because it's not just about you as a play on words, because it is just about you, but it isn't just about you. It's about the other person as well. It's about your friend, your family, someone you don't even know. It's about not being selfish, and it's about being accountable.
That is totally right. And again, I think such an important message that you cannot say enough is that if you make that decision to get into that vehicle under any level of impairment, you can't just think to yourself, well, I'll take that risk for myself. It so often is not the case where you're not going to hurt yourself, is that you will hurt someone else.
Exactly.
And you need to keep that in mind as well. It couldn't be more important.
And it's very hard. It's hard to change a habit, but we have to change the habits.
Yeah.
And it is hard because, it isn't hard because there's ride shares available, but it is hard because, sometimes you're in a situation where you don't know whether you're going to have a drink, or you don't know whether you want to do, whatever you're going to do. But it is important that we do change. It's okay, we recognize that this is an epidemic, but we also need to recognize that we need to change it. Not tomorrow, not next month, but we need to change it now.
Yeah,
there needs to be immediate change.
Absolutely, absolutely. Keep in mind if you're in that situation and it feels like it's inconvenient to figure out another way to get to wherever you need to get to. Yeah. Again, this foundation's goal of kind of educating people on what a big problem this is and how really beyond inconvenient, not even the right word, it could be is super important. There is kind of a coalescence of California law enforcement that hasn't happened before that's happening at this show. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, it's a very good point. It's the first time that we believe that all three law enforcements have been brought together to demonstrate what they're doing to prevent DUI tragedies. We have the LAPD, who are going to be there with their DUI simulation unit. We have the CHP that are going to do a demonstration of a standard field sobriety test using these goggles called fatal vision goggles, and you put them on and they simulate, being over the limit.
Wow.
And then we have the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department, and they're also, they are heavily involved in the DUI checkpoints and, DUI patrols. And they're going to be there too. So all of these law enforcement agencies are lending their support because they are inundated with these problems and these statistics that is just getting worse.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, the show is happening on March 21st. It's the Palladium. It is the LOVR Benefit show to raise awareness about driving under the influence. Again, not just here in California, but everywhere, and how it is an epidemic and how it does need to stop. After the show, where does the foundation go from here?
That's a very good point. So the idea is that this is the first point of departure for awareness. So once the foundation starts its work, we have a robust educational program that's been written where it's called Students Against DUI, SAD is the acronym, and we'll be going to high schools around California to begin with. And my daughter is going to be lecturing high school students. She's a senior. She's about to graduate this year. She is going to be lecturing high school students on her process of grief and how, she does not want any other student to suffer in the same way she suffered. And an informational curriculum about how not to DUI. Yeah. So it's really, really, really important to get to that young demographic that, obviously are not allowed to drink yet because they're below the age. But if you start in giving them education and information at this level, the idea behind it is that the longer they are aware of this, the less chance of them DUI.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, if we learned anything in radio, it is you can't just tell someone once. You have to pound that message home again and again and again and again and again. This is a great way of doing that. Speaking of younger people, is there a way or a place where people can follow the foundation? Is there an Instagram? Is there a Twitter? Is there some place?
We do. We have all the social media channels. We have Instagram and Facebook and Twitter. And then obviously we can be found online at NoahBenardoutFoundation.org. Okay. But yes, we will continue to release statistics. We'll continue to give information of our progress across all our social media channels for sure.
Absolutely. Marc, I can't imagine what you and your family have been through in the last year, but what I can do is thank you immensely for not just your courage, but your action.
Thank you.
Into taking the worst possible scenario and making it a positive, and doing all of the hard work that you're doing to help prevent this from happening more, as it is an epidemic, like you said. So thank you very much for being here. Thank you for your work. And again, the LOVR Benefit Show happens March 21st at the Palladium. You can find links to buy tickets here on this video, over on this post as well, over at alt987fm.com. And it's going to be an incredible night.
Thank you.
With everything involved. Absolutely. Thank you for being here.